Desktop go. Hopefully that's working now. Testing. Anybody? Hello? Okay, I'm getting conflicting messages. We have sound, we don't have sound. There we go. Oh. I will get there one day. I will get there one day. Apologies, everybody. I'm still trying to get to grips with live streaming and the processes involved and sort of just polishing off the rough edges of it all. And one day I will get a start of this stream right and working. And I didn't actually mute myself that time. I mean, you couldn't hear me, but I didn't mute myself. The first time I did a stream, it just worked. But I didn't know, because it was the first time I'd done a stream. I didn't know how the audio levels would be. Whenever I play like the intro on OBS, I can't actually hear it, so I didn't know how all of that sounded. So after my first stream, I went and watched the start of it back just to see how it came across to everyone watching on YouTube, and I noticed that I could hear my breath slightly because my mic was live while the intro was playing, so I could sort of hear myself breathing. And I thought, next time I'm going to mute the microphone. I thought next time I'll mute the microphone until I'm about to go, sort of till the intro's finished, and then I'll go. Next time I forgot to unmute the microphone, and just started rambling off on a muted microphone. So then the next time I thought, right, I'll remember to unmute the microphone this time. And I thought I did, and I either didn't quite catch the unmute button properly on the deck stream, or I caught it twice because I wound up still muted. And then I thought this time I'm going to double check, made sure not muted. And for some reason OBS had changed my microphone settings without me asking to from what it was supposed to be to just something else. So I apologize, everybody. One day I will get a start of this stream correct, but that ain't today. He didn't care though. So yes, hello everybody. Welcome to another stream. I don't know how long this one's going to be. I'd figured I'd do a stream tonight because I'm probably not going to get a chance to do another one this week. And then after I'd scheduled the stream, I noticed that Toon's already scheduled to go live in just under 2 hours' time. And I probably don't want to tread on his toes, so I might wrap it up by about 11, or I might see if Toon wants to sort of, if I can jump in with Toon for a bit. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I thought, yes, Wally, I am blaming OBS. I can't blame Rusty, can I? What was I going to say? Yes, so this stream is... I've called it Is the Sun Setting on Flat Earth. There's actually a couple of different levels to that explanation, to that title. Because I think post-TFE, it does really start to feel like the sun is setting on flat Earth. I didn't predict that actually happening, but it feels like it was. But also, I did a video recently regarding sunsets on the bottoms of aeroplanes in response to Joe Hanvey, and F'd Up World did a response to that, which I was going to go through on this stream if I get time, because he says a couple of interesting things in the sense that he agrees with a lot of what I say, but he just seems to be, if he could just wrap his head around perspective properly, I think he might actually grasp why the bottoms of our aeroplanes being lit at sunset disproves the Earth being flat. But in the meantime, a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, to the members in the chat, after the last stream, somebody commented in the chat of the last stream, I mentioned about the rusty emojis, the the custom emojis, I should say, of which a couple were rusty. And somebody suggested that I should make the badges option where you can have rusty as the member badge as well, which I have set up, and I can see a couple of people seemingly already have it. So just to make you aware that is now the case. What else was I going to go over? Don't know. I'm looking at you. You're not going to tell me. I'm sure there was some other stuff. I'll probably remember halfway through this stream. And do bear with me once again. I don't know why I pick. I don't know if it's my throat's starting to go. I know in the past when I've done streams, I've started streaming and then my throat started to get really bad. And today it just seems to be that my throat is starting to go before the stream even began. So I don't know whether I'm going to be fit to stream for a long period of time, but we'll see. Joseph369, hi Dave. How do you measure the Earth curvature? Well, you can see stuff thousands of miles away, like the sun, but you can't see the stuff below the sun because it goes down. That's kind of how you measure it. Where are we at? Let's see who else we got. Just lots of rusties in the chat is what I'm seeing. It's great. Dave using the live ray tracing in Unreal Engine 5 again. Yes, if anyone's not seen the video that I published today, it's a slightly complicated one, a bit of a long one, but it is a clear sign of how desperate Flat Earth is getting, which kind of ties into is the sun setting on Flat Earth conundrum, because the video I did was about Flatzoid was claiming that we faked the Antarctic sun using Unreal Engine. Now, his explanation, if you are somebody who isn't really familiar with computer graphics and Unreal Engine and how ray tracing works, then his explanation could sound plausible, but it has some gaping big problems to it. So basically, he says that somebody went to Antarctica before us, got some photos of the landscape, some HDR photos of the landscape, so that we could then make a photorealistic render of the surrounding scenery that you see, and then we then went and filmed ourselves at halfway point, and then because the sun set, we had to replace the sky and the scenery with this Unreal Engine render. Except, if he's correct, that means that partway through the footage that we were filming, because we filmed for 24 hours, Will has a 24 or 25 hour long video. So we were physically at halfway point for for more than 24 hours, and you can see the lighting on the floor and on us. We are lit from all directions at some point because the sun was circling around us, which means if he was correct, then the real footage that we filmed would have at some point had everything where we were go dark and the shadows disappeared because the sun would have set. But he seems to think that ray tracing can magically just turn nighttime video footage instantly into daytime with accurate lighting. So, yeah, not actually going to happen. And as I was pointing out, the way ray tracing works, like ray tracing is a big thing at the moment within computer games as a way of trying to get more accurate lighting within computer games. But it only works within computer games because the graphics card is rendering the light in real time by knowing exactly where everything within the scene is. It needs to know where every light source is, where every object is, so it can work out how the light is going to interact with that object. You can't just look at a video. Like, if I was to just magically, I don't know, turn ray tracing on now, If I turned my lights off in this room so it got plunged into darkness and I just turned on ray tracing couldn't just replicate this, because it would have no idea how far I am from the camera, how far the background is from the camera. It's got no idea, so it can't replicate light if it doesn't know what it's trying to replicate the light around. But it's just another sign of desperate attempts to try and dismiss a 24-hour sun, which is strange because the flat earthers keep saying that a 24-hour sun doesn't make any difference to what shape the earth is. But I'd question, why are they so desperate to try and dismiss it if it doesn't actually mean anything? But which is just a contradiction, and actually is a nice little link to another point that I want to bring up with everyone, because the next video that I want to do is highlighting these contradictions from flat earthers, because I am seeing a lot of them now. I'm seeing flat earthers who are contradicting their own claims. For example, Eric Dubay and a few other people have recently, I've seen a lot of comments recently from them saying that the stars circling around Polaris is proof the Earth is flat. The same people who, when asking about the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, will turn around and say the lights in the sky don't tell you the shape of the ground, which is a clear-cut contradiction. You know, how can lights in the sky not tell you the shape of the ground, and then you turn around and say that what the stars are doing around Polaris is somehow proof of the shape of the Earth? It doesn't add up. So the contradictions like that, and contradictions where flat earthers are, they're not singing from the same hymn sheet at all. They're putting out claims that are directly contradicting other flat earthers. For example, you look at some flat earthers like Flatzoid or Nathan Oakley and such, they will probably say, we don't live on a model, there is no model, we don't live on one, we don't need a model. Then you have the likes of Joe Hanvey and Stephen Alonso, who will say, this is the flat earth model, and this is how it works, and the flat earth model is better than the globe model at predicting these things. So there's a straight contradiction of how can you not have a model and have a model that explains things better than a globe. And then I did notice on Toon's stream last night, whoever he was talking to turned around and said that the globe model can predict sunrises and sunsets perfectly. So there's a three-way contradiction there. Basically, the point is, there's all these different contradictions going around, and I want to put together a video showing these huge contradictions from the flat earth community, particularly post-TFE, because it really does just seem like flat earthers chasing their own tails in a scrambling, desperate mess. Actually, I think the best way to describe it, I saw somebody commented, I think, on one of my videos the other day, which I thought was a perfect phrasing for it, is, how did they word it? The left hand doesn't know which foot the right hand is shooting. Because that is basically what is happening with flat earth at the moment. They're shooting themselves in the foot, but they can't even agree amongst themselves how the hell they're doing it. So basically what I'm rambling on to asking is, if you can think of any contradictions in that kind of manner, do please let me know, so that just so that I can build up a collection and work out what ones to put within the video. And I've already got quite a few in mind, but I can't keep up with so many of them. So if anybody can think of any, do please let me know. I either very quickly now in the chat, or in a super chat, because if it's 15-20 minutes down the line and you're telling me, I'm probably going to miss them. Either that, or my email is in my about page on my YouTube channel. It's dpm-photography@outlook.com. Just shoot me an email there telling me what it is. That would be great. So, anyway, a couple of super chats to get through already. Turtle moves for £2. Donations to Rusty, Who's a Good Boy Fund. Who's a sleepy boy. Tori Hanzo for 100 sec. Happy to see you streaming again. And you too, Dave. Yes, it's always great when Rusty comes on and streams. Christian Elasia joins the Rusty Fans Club, and then Present99 gifts 50 memberships, which means 50 of you are now members of the Rusty Fans Club, really whether you like it or not. So thank you very much for that, Present99. That's very generous of you. Jack Fetter, $10. I was so triggered by Flatsoy saying TFE was created virtually. I'm working on a challenge for him to go next December. No 24-hour sun. I pay the trip plus $100,000. Son, he covers his own cost and quits Flat Earth. It's a very good point, Jack. It's obviously never going to happen. Hopefully I've not spoiled anyone's... hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler, but yeah, that's not going to happen. I actually had that same sort of conversation with him when I debated him about TFE being fake on FTFE's channel a couple of weeks back. Because it's hilarious that all these flat earthers, like I said before we went to Antarctica, that any flat earther who was offered a spot on the trip, like Eric Dubay, Mark Sargent, Nathan Oakley, Dave Weiss, Dean Odell, all of those people lost their right, as far as I'm concerned, lost their right to try claiming that we faked something because they had a prime opportunity to go FOC and see it for themselves. I know there'll be some people probably say that some of the offers were fake because it was the flat earther who basically made a fake offer to Will to pay for, I think it was to pay for Sargent first and then pay for Oakley, or might have been the other way around, and they rejected it. So it wasn't a genuine offer they rejected, but at the time they rejected it, they didn't know it wasn't a genuine offer. And Lisbeth is living, breathing proof that the offer still worked out anyway, because that fake offer got put into a fake golden ticket, which Lisbeth won. Then the rug got pulled that it wasn't a genuine offer, but they still worked it to make sure that Lisbeth got to go. So, yeah, all of those frankly lost any right to turn around and try claiming that we didn't see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica because they had a prime opportunity to go and see it for themselves. Obviously, the likes of Flatsoid and the other people on the list of participants didn't quite have that same opportunity, but there was nothing stopping them from trying to go. And yet not a single flat earther even attempted to come on the trip with us. Critical Think showed that, in fact, both Critical Think and MC Toon showed that you didn't need to have Will pay for you. You could crowdfund to go yourself. And even if they didn't get the money completely together, I mean, Globy McGlobeface tried to crowdfund his way. Unfortunately couldn't get the funds together for it, but he still made the effort to try and do it. So yeah, it speaks volumes to me that not a single flat earther tried to crowdfund their own way there. They'll all turn around now and say they never trusted Jaren, they never trusted Austin, they never trusted any of us. Well, that would be the prime opportunity. If you don't trust anybody that is going on the trip, that is the prime position to then turn around and go, I don't trust any of you, so I'm going to come along for myself to see it for myself because I don't trust you. Right? If you trust the people that are going, you'll take their word for it that it happens. If you don't trust them, you either don't care, in which case, why are you going on about it? Or you do care, but you don't trust them, in which case you want to go and see for yourself. So yes, I think if they had any confidence that the sun actually set, they'd have come along with us at the time. Um, and even if for whatever reason they couldn't do it in December when we did it, we've been and shown you can go to Antarctica. Seemingly, most of them are now in agreement that we actually went to Antarctica, but they think that the sun didn't do what we showed it doing in the video. So they should already be, if they don't trust it, they could already be crowdfunding now to go in the coming December. And so far, I was going to say none of them are. That's not true. Roger Ledwell is, although seemingly nobody actually knows who Roger Ledwell is. So I don't imagine, even if he does go, he's probably going to get excommunicated pretty quickly. Joseph369, because it doesn't prove anything. Except you can't explain it on a flat earth and you can explain it on a globe, which is kind of a bit of a proof. You know, in the same way as take any observation that you think a flat earth explains, like being able to see several hundred miles, and you'd go, that does work on a flat earth, that doesn't work on a globe. Except it does work on a globe when you obviously account for all the variables that like to get cherry picked out. But yeah, when it works on one model and doesn't work on another, that kind of proves that it one model or the other. Tad has joined the Rusty Fans Club as well. Cooks for €5. I was watching a video about how ray tracing is overrated in games, and then you uploaded a video about ray tracing. Are you spying on me? Yeah, I'm spying on you with ray tracing. Funnily enough, I see a lot about ray tracing and whether it's overrated. And strangely, at the same time, I play games a bit, and I'm currently playing through Metro Exodus, the new enhanced version, which now has ray tracing, and it does add a lot to the environment. It does make it look pretty good. I think the issue is more that at the moment it's still fairly new technology that that hasn't properly been optimized yet. I think give it a couple of years when graphics cards have improved a bit more to process it better, and more that gaming manufacturers have been able to optimize game design with ray tracing in mind. I think it will become more mainstream. But yeah, for now, it's probably one of those that for the very few games that it does work well in, it's a difficult thing to justify spending the kind of money on graphics, the level of graphics card that you need to run it well. Michaela 199. Hi Rusty, who's the loser disturbing your sleep? I do apologize. I will be very quiet and not disturb him. Weasley Vanderbent has joined the Rusty Fans Club as well, and Mark Boots €6. Who even knows you guys are real at all? You lot and TFE only live on the internet thanks to AI interacting in real time. Kidding. Yes, it is quite hilarious. That's what I like about what we did with TFE, is the fact that we did pretty much try to cover every single base. Not just let's go to Antarctica and let's film the 24-hour sun, because obviously they'll turn around and say it's fake. So let's do live streams. Let's have multiple cameras. Let's have it as 360 cameras that are recording everything going around. So you can literally pull up the live stream and Will's real-time 360 video, and you can watch the two together at the same time and see everything matches up. It's beautiful. I did actually contemplate doing that, going through, and because I've got loads of... I'll bring this up here. Where's my... that one? There. I'll just show you the folder of what I've got here. So this is... I'm going to get this up here. pick a screen share? There we go. So this is my Antarctica folder of the various things I've got. So that's the original 360 time-lapse file there. The solar track of the flights and everything. When it comes to like the photos, so this is the raw folder. Let me change that so you can see it better. So these are all the photos that I took, the raws. So I took like lots of images. Generally, sort of take like 4 or 5 images at the same time of the same thing, just to make sure that I get one that works well. So I've got all these photos, and then I've got in the video section, I've got all these random little video clips as well from Halfway Point, that a lot of them are outside, so you probably see me in the footage walking around filming them. And I was really tempted to, do I just put together like Will's 24-hour video and go through it and literally overlay every live stream, every time I'm out with a camera and I'm taking a picture, showing the pictures that I'm taking, and just cross-reference everything into one enormous video. I'd be very tempted if, one, I had the time to do it, and two, I could actually really do anything with that video, because I'd probably still wind up with a 24-hour long video that I then can't upload to YouTube because it's too long. But yeah, it is funny how much overlap we've got with everything, and yet you've still got flat earthers turning around and going, it's CGI. Like, I had the wonderful body language expert Steve from England, who was on with Will, who before we went just said, if you go and you see the Antarctic sun for 24 hours, I'll admit I was wrong. And then we came back and he wouldn't admit he was wrong and started trying to claim that we were being deceitful. But actually, I jumped onto the stream when he was on, and I point blank asked him, I said, you think the 360 video we faked? Yeah. He said, yeah, that's fake. So, but the live streams that we did in Antarctica, they're real. Yeah. I trust. The live streams were real. Said, okay, because you can see live streams that you say are real happened in every direction. We streamed during most of the early hours of the morning. We streamed during midday. I streamed late evening. Austin streamed at about late afternoon. So pretty much in that time, we've done these live streams that, by his own admission, are true, that are real, and the sun's visible in all of them. So it's like, how can you say the sun set but the live streams are real when the live stream's in all directions? Yeah, nothing adds up. You protest too much, Dave. No, I just point out that flat earthers can't actually get their shit together by the looks of it. Baltazar 228 for $10. I'm sure many flat earthers would find Antarctica unbearable. Yes. Yes, it would be unbearable. It is. A lot of people don't actually know that there's no bears in Antarctica. I got asked, keep getting asked now, what wildlife, what animals did you see? I'm like, nothing. There's literally nothing there. There's penguins a few hundred miles away, but they live on the coast. And I think they did say, the staff members did say, there's 3 species of birds, I think, that occasionally, like very rarely, make their way to the South Pole. But other than that, nothing. And that's yeah, some I think I showed that video in the last stream I did, actually, where I walked out in the early hours of the morning. Everyone else was in the hut sleeping or resting, and there was the only other person out at the time was the ALE staff member, who was sat on a chair outside the hut door, I think just reading a book, basically, just taking some time off, not actually doing anything. And I walked out to go and check on the cameras, and then I just filmed myself, stopped, just taking in the dead silence of Antarctica. And there's There's not a sound. It was surreal. Like normally you'd hear some background noise. Even in like you go to the rural countryside, you'll hear something. You'll hear rustlings of trees or insects or cars off in the distance. There was nothing. I see spin. Mikey Smith took photos of the firmament, so I had to record it. Well, as long as he's taking photos of the firmament and not his toe, I am going to do a video one day showing Mikey Smith how to focus a camera. Dave Weiss is going to prove flat Earth with a gyro. Good luck to him. He might win his own Bitcoin challenge then. Michaela 499. The insane thing is that TFE is absolutely perfection and totally airtight, but that's sad. Not good enough for the Eastern of the Neanderthals. Yeah, and that's kind of where the thing for this stream is going, because it really is airtight. I think with hindsight, there's parts of TFE that I would love to go back, do it again, and fine tune things. Like, for example, I'd love to, with hindsight, set the 360 camera up on a tripod on the roof of the Blue Hut rather than all on the ground in front of us. Just because I only thought about it afterwards that would have put it several feet higher off the ground. It would have gave us a more aerial view of the other cameras, the tripods. You'd have seen the shadows clearer circling rather than having that kind of perspective shift that you more obvious from ground level. We might have been able to see the main camp. Plus, it would have also meant we wouldn't have needed battery packs for it. We could have just ran a cable just down through the window of the hut and plugged it into the mains. So there's areas to TFE that I think could have been improved. And with hindsight, I wish I'd contemplated, to be honest, at the time, leaving my 360 camera set up recording. So my solar camera, the mount wound up reversing direction, so I lost track of the sun. And then I was in two minds. Do I leave the 360 running? Because that could have shot a time lapse for a week. And I thought, do I leave it running, or do I pack it down and take it back with me back to main camp and potentially do something with it down there? And I opted to take it back. But then I don't actually recall doing anything else with it, other than I think I just wanted to get the footage off the camera as soon as possible, and get that time lapse ready to publish. So potentially, I think with hindsight, it would have been good to leave it running for another 24 hours. I could have had like a 48-hour long time lapse. But I'm also glad to some extent that I did just get it back. I literally stayed up until about 5 a.m, just copying everything off the cameras onto the laptop and backing everything up onto hard drives before I went to bed. And then I think I actually rendered the time lapse as well. I think I rendered the short version of the time lapse. I got it onto the computer because I wanted to have a look at it and see it in all its glory on a screen rather than just on the camera. And then because I was sat up in the food, I just had too much adrenaline. Even though I'd been up for 48 hours, my head was, I think my body clock was completely screwed. I think because the sun doesn't set, your natural body rhythm is as it goes dark, your body produces melatonin, which then kind of tells your head it's time to go to sleep. 24-hour sunlight, you don't get that. So you never really get that true feeling of tiredness properly like you do when it's sort of, you hit winter and it goes really dark early and you feel dead tired really early on. Had none of that. I got back to the camp. In my head, I'm thinking, I've been up for over 40 hours. Like I was fairly tired, but I wasn't like, if I tried staying up 48 hours now, like in an actual day-night cycle, couldn't do it. So I got back to the camp and I was just like, I'm too excited, I'm too nervous. I just want to get the footage off the cameras onto the laptop, make sure it's backed up. Then I wanted to have a look at it. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's render a time lapse as well. So I thought, I'm not rendering the full 25-minute time lapse. It was way too big. But I thought I'll do the tracked, sped up version that's like 48 seconds long. Get that rendered as a file so we can then show it to Will and Toon and everyone else. And so, because Will and Toon were in the tent with me, everyone else had gone off to bed by that point, but I was showing them the time lapse. And then, yeah, up early the next morning, get it uploaded to, well, no, I uploaded it to YouTube. I didn't publish it until after I'd gone to sleep, until after I'd woke up the next day, I should say. Yeah. So, but yes, I'm rambling. It really is airtight in the sense that there was so much crossover, there was so much overlap of the 360 cameras and the live streams and just everything else that we captured as well, that they've got no wriggle room. And that's the thing, is they're desperate to explain it away, because they're desperate to dismiss it because they can't explain it, but they also can't dismiss it because they haven't got a valid dismissal for it, because there's too much overlap. Yeah, and so this is the thing for me, is this truly the end of Flat Earth? When TFE was announced, when Will came up with this idea of settling the debate once and for all, I didn't think it would happen. I'd messaged Will when I was accepting, basically when I emailed him to accept the trip, and there was a little sort of conversation back and forth, and I think I said to him then, I'll be honest, I don't think this is going to end Flat Earth. Potentially it might move the conversation along, but I don't think it will truly end it. But having seen the response from Flat Earth, I'm starting to question that, because I kind of just presumed that Flat Earthers would kind of just ignore TFE. Just, yeah, let's just ignore it. Let's just say, pretend, like, we'll just let the Globers do what they're going to do, and then we'll just say it's fake, like we do with everything else. But they didn't. They actually, it stirred the hornet's nest before we went, which I wasn't fully expecting, seeing a lot of them almost instantly going into panic mode, like they knew what we were going to see before we went. I mean, to be fair, we pretty much knew what we were going to see before we went, but, given the fact that everything else points to the Earth being a globe, and we'd spoken to all these people who'd been to Antarctica before, and I was getting advice from people who'd been to Antarctica and who'd filmed in the 24-hour sun, giving me tips on how to film in such an environment with the 24-hour sun. So I kind of knew that what we were going to see. But it's like a lot of the Flat Earthers knew what they were going to see, what we were going to see as well, before we even went. So yeah, it kind of stirred the hornet's nest to the point that once they'd made a big deal out of it beforehand, they couldn't avoid it afterwards. But it's like, yeah, it's just, it's crazy. It really does feel like it's just the big elephant in the room that Flat Earthers can't ignore, but also can't explain. which is why you've then got the likes of Jaren and who's the other big channel? What's it named? Celebrate Truth, is it? The or the big one that's come out and admitted they were wrong. And quite a few other people as well I've seen comment that, you know, they've kind of post TFE have realized the Earth can't be flat. And I think there's a lot of flat earthers who are behind the scenes kind of quietly doing that, maybe not so vocal as Jaren, but are realizing the Earth can't be flat. And there seems to be very few left that are sort of still sticking with flat Earth, apart from the few die-hard ones that I don't think will ever give it up. And funnily enough, I heard quite an interesting thing just from Mark Sargent the other day, and it was one little remark in response to a super chat that someone had sent to him, but I thought it was very telling, because they were talking about Jaren flipping, changing his mind, basically accepting that he was wrong. And I've seen a lot of people go, oh, you know, it's like painting this picture that Jaren just was stonewalled flat earther, went to Antarctica, saw a 24-hour sun, and then just went, well, that's it, the Earth must be a globe now. Overlooking, Jaren actually spent months on his own streams trying to reconcile how a 24-hour sun would work on a flat Earth, and saying, you know, he was there going, if we see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, that can't work on this model. It just can't work. It's going to falsify this model. Show me another model. Nobody had anything. Because the only way you can explain a circling 24-hour sun in Antarctica on a flat Earth is if you center the AE map around the South Pole, which then immediately screws up the 24-hour sun in the north. You know, it's kind of, it's a bit of a clue that if you start from the equator, if two people start at the equator and one goes slowly north and one goes slowly south at the same rate, what you see from various latitudes mirrors 6 months apart. It's not a coincidence, on a globe at least. So yeah, it's not like Jaren just went as a diehard flat earther, saw the 24-hour sun and then thought, well, that's it, globe. He'd already worked out beforehand. Like, he'd already spent months trying to figure it out and couldn't, that if the sun circles in Antarctica, it does not work on any flat Earth map. I mean, to be fair, the sun being south of us in Chile was a pretty big clue before we'd even gone to Antarctica. But Mark Sargent was talking about Jaren and suggesting that he's been potentially paid off for flipping. Why the hell, if the plan all along was to pay Jaren off, he wouldn't have been paid off on the trip. He'd have been paid off beforehand. So why would Will then want a load of other people to go along and potentially sort of, if the plan was, let's pay Jaren off, take him to Antarctica, and then get him to come back and say the Earth's a globe, not then going to want a load of other people, a load of other specifically flat earthers to go along and watch it as well. But yeah, so someone sent Mark a super chat saying something like, you'll never see Mark Sargent flip. And Mark brought it up on screen and just blatantly, yep, you'll never see me turn around and say the Earth's a globe. Never. And that for me I thought was quite telling, that is basically he is saying he would never be prepared to admit he was wrong. Like, I'm not turning around and say you'll never catch me saying the Earth is flat. If somebody can actually show me a flat Earth that explains everything that we observe, I'd be prepared to admit I was wrong. or if you show me a way that everything we observe can work with a flat Earth and stuff that can't be explained with a globe, I'll say I was wrong. Mark Sargent has blatantly, outright just said he would never admit he was wrong about the Earth, which is for me quite telling. That to me says more that he knows, potentially at least, he knows the Earth is a globe. He would just never admit it publicly that it's a globe. Balthazar 228 for $5. If the previous joke didn't land, Antarctica is named Antarctica because you can't see Arctus, the Great Bear constellation, from any point on it. My apologies. I thought you were talking about polar bears. Scott Lott, $10. Flat Earth belief isn't about truth, but a refuge for those overwhelmed by science. The scientifically literate fail to connect with them, so they formed their own science club with fellow skeptics. I think there's potentially a lot of reasons why people fall into flat Earth. I do think that is probably a valid reason for a good portion of them. I think there's an element of, Joe369, celestial navigation, Dave. What about it, Joe? That would be the celestial navigation where you take measurements to stars and then apply a dip correction based on a globe before you for you to then work out where you are. If you're applying dip corrections for a globe and the Earth's not a globe, then your calculation measurements, your calculations are going to be very, very heavily skewed. It is also quite funny that flat earthers will say celestial navigation, the same flat earthers who say they don't have a map. It's quite funny how the hell you're going to work out where you are on Earth without a map to use. But hey ho, good try. Where was I up to? Scott. Yes, so I think there's multiple reasons why people fall into it. Some of it is going to be education based. I think some of it is potentially anti-authoritarian or just rebellious in terms of automatically going against what they've been told. I do think there's an element of that with some that, you know, they just push back and go, I've been taught this and I think everything that I'm taught is a lie, so I'll just go with it. Yeah, I think there's a whole host of reasons. Some people will be open and honest enough with themselves to dip correction just accounts for your eyes not being on the floor. Doesn't matter what the dip correction is for, Joe. The point is the amount of dip correction you put in is the dip correction for you being on a globe, not being on a flat Earth. If you put a different amount of dip when you apply corrections to something, if you apply the wrong amount of corrections, then your results will be wrong. There's no two ways about it. If you are calibrating something and you go, okay, I don't know, for example, I'm too tired to think of something that you're calibrating. Whatever. You're calibrating something and you go, okay, this calibration is X amount off per second or per degree or whatever, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to correct it for a completely different amount. It's not going to work. So it doesn't matter what the dip correction is being used to correct for. The amount of dip correction you are applying in celestial navigation is the amount of dip correction for a curve of 7/6R. So I don't need to be hearing what you think dip correction is used for. I need you to explain why the dip correction for a flat Earth paints a circle the size of the globe. Gary Io, £10. Have a beer on me, Dave. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Gary, indeed. Ted Park, $5 Canadian. I guess that for Jaren, the actual observation in person of a 24-hour sun was convincing enough. I do think calibrating a scale. Yes, Icy Spin, that's a good one. Calibrating a scale. If you're calibrating a scale and you go, okay, for my scales aren't calibrated properly, and I need to be correcting it 1 gram per 100 grams. I need to correct it. That's how much it's off by. But I'm going to correct 8 grams per 100 grams. Then all your weights are still going to be bleeding wrong. Yes, sorry, Ted, to get back to your point. Yeah, I do think seeing it in person hits harder, because you kind of lose that. At least if you're intellectually honest enough with yourself, you lose that that ability to just instantly dismiss it. Like a lot of flat earthers at the moment with the 24-hour sun are just going, yeah, so what? There might be one, there might not. I don't know, and I don't care. Whereas you go and see it in person, you can't then go, there might be one, there might not. You have to go, well, there is one. And it's then a question of, are you going to try and work out how the hell it happened? And this is a two-part thing, I think. Seeing it in person, you then can't fool yourself and deny that it was there. It's then a question of, are you intellectually honest enough to try and explain that and come up with an actual explanation for it, which Jaren was. Jaren has turned around and gone. Before TFE, he was going, how's this? This isn't working on a flat surface. I can't figure out how this is working on a flat surface. And then having seen it, now turning around and going, it doesn't work on a flat surface. I've seen it. He's physically watched the sun. Like, we're in Chile, you see the sun literally like kind of loop around like a hula hoop, loop around you, but on a slope where it's disappearing behind the horizon. We fly further south. The lowest elevation that we see the sun reach in Antarctica is now higher than we saw in Chile, but the highest elevation we saw is now lower. It's basically, you can see the tilt of the orbit of the sun. We witnessed it between Chile and Antarctica a few hours apart. When Jaren was actually working that out and going, how does that work? Whereas I think, Lisbeth doesn't seem to have come up with any flat earth based explanation for it. And Austin doesn't seem to be coming up with anything these days. He's gone very, very quiet. Rocinante, $5. The glaring hole in the Jaren was paid off is that Dearth was invited. Oakley, Sergeant Debay, any of them could have gone. That, yeah, exactly. That's the thing is, if Jaren was paid off, that either means he was paid off in Antarctica when he was with Austin and Lisbeth and Jonathan, which is a ballsy, would be a ballsy move from Will to basically manage to sneak up to Jaren and go, I'll pay you a load of money to turn around and say the Earth's a globe. Or he'd have done it beforehand. But yeah, like you say, there was everyone else was invited to go, and why was it only Jaren then that got paid off? Surely Will would have been far more damning as a conclusion if we came back from Antarctica and literally all of the flat earthers turned around and went, the earth can't be flat, it must be a globe. Yet neither, not Jaren, Austin, or Lisbeth have, no, not Jaren, not Austin, Lisbeth, or Jonathan have turned around and said, well, Will tried to pay me off, but I said no. Dave Slaz, £5, but message retracted. Well, thank you for that, Dave. For whatever reason, if you want to throw the message back in chat, if it was something you specifically want read out, do please do so. Mineland97 for 60 sec. Are you not tired of basically talking about the same thing for years, or do you get messages from converted flat earthers that keep you going? Twofold. Well, I mean, one, basically, I've not been doing it for years. Well, I've been doing it for years, but not as long as many have, like Toon and FTFE. But I do get messages from people who, sometimes it's comments, sometimes it's occasionally emails, or I'll just see other people who have said, you know, my videos have helped them find their way back to reality. For example, before we even went to Antarctica, Will had an ex-flat earther at the time called Amarel, who put his reason for realizing the Earth as a globe down to two things. One, the fact that Eric Dubé, having spent years basically demanding that he wants to go to Antarctica and see it all for himself, then rejected the trip to go. But also, the video that I did about sunlight on the underside of planes was just something that sort of got him thinking that doesn't work on a flat Earth. And I think that this is a thing with why I continue to do the videos is it is getting people thinking, for the most part at least. It does seem to be, you'll have some flat earthers who just don't care, don't watch my videos, aren't bothered about hearing an argument. Fine. But there are people who are genuinely trying to work it out and are interested in both sides of the argument. But the analogy that I use for it is there's no one sort of magic bullet specifically that you just say to a person, okay, explain this. This doesn't work on a flat Earth, or this only works on a globe, and they just go, oh wow. Everybody for some reason just has something different. I think there's just some different arguments that resonate with people. You know, for some people it will be the sunlight on the bottom of planes. For some people it will be how the hell does an equatorial mount work at the equator. Various different things, and the analogy that I came up with that I think describes it is working out all of this. Sometimes it's like if you just had a jigsaw box and you threw all the pieces on the floor, and if you just pick up a piece, the whole picture isn't so clear. But as you start putting that jigsaw together, the picture slowly starts to form, and you will just get to a point where you put a piece in, and you can just start to then envisage that picture. Once you break that wall, you've gone from I can't work out what this picture is to now I see it. But the piece that you put into place that makes you see that isn't the same piece for everybody. You know, everyone's building the picture in their own way, in a different order, and it's just everyone, I think, will reach a point, assuming they're not sort of lying shills and grifters who know the reality that we're dealing with anyway. But if it's people who are genuinely trying to figure things out, everyone will reach a point where they just go, now I'm seeing the complete picture. But what that picture is different for everybody. or what that piece is, I should say, is different for everybody. So yes, there are people who do message me. There are people who I see comment, even if no flat earther specifically reaches out to me and says it. I know that it's still, I'm still helping everyone else with the information, because I know, like, social media these days, I did a stream the other day just going through Twitter, because the memes and garbage that are thrown all over that is ridiculous. Now, if you're familiar with those memes and you're familiar with the arguments and you're familiar with what the explanation is for them, fine. But if you're somebody who doesn't know, some of them can be quite compelling to make you start doubting what shape the Earth actually is. And I think I always kind of felt compelled, at least when I was on Facebook, when I'd see those kinds of posts, I'd always feel compelled to actually give people the answer. Never sure whether they were actually listening to it or not, or just there to take the piss, but I'd at least give them the benefit of the doubt and go, I'll put the information there so that if you want to know the answer, it's there for you to take on board. But obviously, there's so many different posts. So it's a case of, even if my videos specifically don't explain something to somebody, I know it's at least giving it other people the ammunition and the ideas and the arguments to be able to then turn around to these posts that they're seeing and going, no, have you considered this? Have you considered that? This is how you explain it. So it's just arming other people with the knowledge to debunk some of these crap memes. And if all else fails, I still get people commenting going, I know the Earth is a globe, but I still learn stuff from your videos and they're entertaining. So it's not a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. Derek the Dullard, £5. If Mark Sargent went to space to see the globe, he'd just get called a liar and paid off as a shill. Some flirts will never be convinced. Yeah, but Mark Sargent's never going to go to space, because that would involve him voluntarily getting into a rocket, which I doubt he would ever do. And if you drugged him and threw him in the rocket, then he'd say that, it's a CGI screen and he's looking at a TV from just on a rocket on a launch pad or something. Shadow Doc, $5. Now that you're more a part of all of this with Toon, Duffy and all, are you going to go to Egypt in 27 for the eclipse with them? Hopefully. I'm considering it. Will had mentioned about doing the trip to Egypt for the eclipse. I wasn't sure about doing it at first, because initially I'm thinking, my missus nearly killed me for going to Antarctica. She's not going to be happy about me going off on another jolly. But then I thought, well, actually, to be fair, she'd probably go with me to Egypt. She wouldn't do Antarctica. She doesn't really like the cold, but she would do Egypt. So I did suggest to her that maybe we could try and book to go to Egypt for a week or whatever during the period of the eclipse. So I'll see the eclipse, but, we still have a holiday and she's not left out of it. So that is something that we're hoping to do, all being well. But we'll have to see how it goes. I did consider, I thought, Gibraltar, because the path of totality actually goes basically straight down the Strait of Gibraltar and the Mediterranean. So I thought Gibraltar would probably be easier for me to get to, but actually looking at it, it looks like the flights are just as complicated and actually more expensive than getting to Egypt. So maybe he'll just prefer to go to Egypt. Tori Hanzo, 20 sec. Don't get scared now. You've got nearly 1,000 viewers. Wow. In fact, looking at it now, it's saying I do have 1,000 views, which is crazy. Thank you, everyone, for joining and watching along. The support is incredible. Patrice Everett, by the way. Mega Man, there'll be a nice vacation. Mega Dude Man. Yes. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is it would be nice to do a twofold thing. I think Will is going to a few locations within Egypt. I can't remember the exact name of the place where the path of totality crosses. There's a city where totality crosses perfectly over, and you can actually get flights from pretty much straight to. There's an airport at that city, so you can just fly straight there. So I think he's going to potentially a few different places in Egypt. I mean, bearing in mind, if he's coming from Colorado over to Egypt, it's a much longer travel. He's not just going to want to do a week in one spot. He's probably going to want to do 2 weeks and travel around a bit. So I think he's going to travel around. I imagine Toon would probably do the same, but I think if I'm doing it, I'd probably just go to that one place, whose name I can't remember, and just spend the week there. Luxor, that's it. Thank you, Monkey in the Works. That's the name of the place I was trying to think of. Luxor is where the path of totality crosses over. So that's the hope, if I can get there. And although knowing my sodding luck and eclipses, because the last time I travelled somewhere to watch an eclipse, it clouded over and I missed it. And the UK is actually getting, I believe, a partial solar eclipse in about 2 weeks' time, which I'm going to miss because I'm in Morocco. So, yeah, me and eclipses seemingly don't work very well. Diogo Pavaya for $28 dollars. Is that South African? I can't actually. Oh, no, sorry, Brazilian. I don't know why. It says right there, hello from Brazil. I should probably read these things before I start guessing. Do you think Witsit will ever come forward and stop grifting? I see he's still trying to come up with an explanation. I'll cut that bit out. I see he's still trying to come up with an explanation for TFE. I've not really seen him come up with anything. He seems to have gone very, very quiet. He's only done a couple of live streams, and most of the live streams that he seems to be doing are not flat Earth related. He seems to be going off into other areas. So I don't know. It almost feels like he's. It almost feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place where he can't explain the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. He knows he can't explain it. But if he knows, if he comes out and says it doesn't work on a flat Earth, he's going to get ostracized, just like he's going to get ostracized from his community the same way that Jaren has. So yeah, it kind of feels like he knows the 24-hour sun doesn't work on a flat Earth, that it points towards the Earth being a globe, but to actually come out and say that is just a step further than he's prepared to take himself at the moment. He doesn't want to make that jump. Maybe he'll come round to it at some point. I don't know. Derek the Dollard, £2. Totally off topic. Do you play any instruments? Define play. I mean, I have a guitar hanging on the wall over there, which I occasionally take down and mess around with, but you would not want to hear any of the noises that I make out of it. So, own instruments? Yes. Play? Not really. DP debunks. $5 I can never. Every time I hear that DP debunks, I always almost end up just saying DPD, which is a delivery service. Hashtag Team Nico for top left. Love your work, sir. Thanks for your inspiration. You're welcome in the DP Dome anytime. Any Oz observation requests. is everything hanging upside down at the moment? King Nico is a worthy contender for top left. However, I do have to say Toon for top left. Because my daughter's a pain in the ass, basically. If you're not familiar, whenever it should hopefully be soon. I don't know when it's happening, but Toon should be putting up the top left nomination videos very soon on his channel. I'd originally was see some dem why Toon. I will explain. So my official nomination was for a guy called Tom Palladino. So when Toon asked me last year, did I want to vote? Did I want to do a top left nomination? I thought, yeah, it'd be fun. But I thought I didn't really want to do flat earthers. I thought everyone goes for the flat earthers, and I thought I don't want to ruffle feathers, and I thought I'll keep it out of flat earth. So I wound up seeing this Tom Palladino on a Simon Dan short, and he's a guy who claims that he can get nutrition from food by looking at a photograph of the food. Yeah, it's pretty spectacular, the stuff he claims he can do with this scalar light energy, he calls it. So I thought, yeah, I'll do a top left nomination for him. So I made the top left nomination video last year, and I sent it to Toon, and then they never went through. Him and Craig never did the top left awards. So when it came around to this year, I was like, well, I'll just go back to where I'll just redo what I did last year, since how it never actually saw the light of day. So I officially was nominating Tom Palladino, except in the stream, the nomination stream that Toon was hosting, where I came on to show it, my daughter, who's only 4, then came in, woke up. It was late night. She woke up, she came in, and she was sat cuddling with me for a bit. And then I was going to head off the stream to go put her back to bed. And I just said, expecting a joke, I just thought, maybe she's got a nomination that she might like to put forward. Who's the silliest person you know? Thinking she would say me. And then she points at Toon on the screen. So, yeah, she officially nominated MC Toon for the top left award. So, obviously, I had to step in to help her out and make the top left nomination video for Toon. And having now made the top left nomination videos for Tom Palladino and Toon, I'm kind of hoping that Toon's going to win. Because it'd be funny to see him actually then win top left and have to wear the t-shirt. So yes, worthy contender DP debunks, but kind of hoping he doesn't win. Jay and Monkey in the Works both have joined the Rusty Fans Club, and then Ramshot Rowdy for $100 US. Enjoy your videos, and it was great to watch you and Toon during TFE. Thank you very much, Rowdy. That is a very, very generous super chat there. It was great fun doing the streams with Toon during TFE. I do think the sleep deprivation helped quite a lot with that. Plus, being in person also helped as well. They were a good laugh. I do hope to be able to do some more of those sometime soon. It'd be nice to be able to just get face to face with Toon again and have a laugh with him. Dennis Serbu, $5 Canadian. I was dismayed to find out that Will Duffy is essentially a young Earther creationist. Great guy, but do you have any plans on discussing this with him? Not at the moment. It's kind of, I mean, there are so many various topics that you could go down, and I think Peter Malarkey, he's another. I think he's young Earth creationist as well. I think I, it's kind of a tricky one in some respects. Just to play devil's advocate with this, but if you're going with the shape of the Earth, you know, it's pretty concrete. It's physically Earth. Is it globe? Is it flat? Everything, how everything works is kind of built around that. Technically, not that I actually believe this, but like I say, devil's advocate, you could turn around and say, because the arguments against young Earth creationists, you've got young Earth, or a young Earth, you've got things like fossils and you know, fossil dating and stuff, and you could technically turn around and say that God made the Earth however many thousands of years ago, but he just happened to make it with all of these fossils that date as millions of years old. Not saying that that's obviously what I believe, but it's kind of one of those where it's starting treading into grayer areas of conversations that I just not really for me at the moment. Flat Earth and the moon landings are the two that I'm sort of focused on at the moment. I will get back to doing the moon landings at some point. I've got some bits regarding that I want to go and cover. Plus, Jaren and I are supposed to be doing some videos. Yeah, Jaren and I are supposed to be doing some videos or some streams regarding the moon landings. And that I think will be quite fun to do. And then you've obviously got the likes of the people who think that jet planes can fly without jet fuel, or the buildings that jet planes went into several years ago, that people just don't have a clue how the physics of heat works. So yeah, there's no shortage of conspiracies that I want to tackle. That I've not really looked too much into young Earth creationists to be able to sort of put forward any arguments one way or the other for it at the moment. Maybe it's something I'll cover in the future. I don't know, but at the moment, no plans for it. Valentine is that Demayan, or is that cutting your name off? £5. What about the full solar eclipse in Spain that I emailed you about? Did you email me? I do apologise, Valentine. I don't recall an email about. I don't recall an email about a solar eclipse in Spain. I'm sure you did. I get a lot of emails, and I struggle to keep up with them a lot of the time. So I don't always respond to them, and I can't always keep up with them. Yeah, I can't see any email about Spain or eclipse. Oh, is it that one? No? No, I do apologise, Valentin. I can't actually find any email regarding it. So, I don't know, shoot it over again, by all means. But, I don't know, is it the same? I don't know, is it the same? Email me, I'll have a look at it. Adam Lord, £10. It feels like the final experiment did what it was designed to do. While it won't totally end flat Earth, it almost totally kill the general interest in it. Yeah, that's the thing, Adam. I think beforehand, and this is kind of what I was saying to Will at the time, at the time, pre-going, I didn't think that it would have the impact that it's wound up having. I thought, it might sort of stir a bit of interest, but I didn't think it would have anywhere near the reaction from flat earthers that it has had. And yeah, while it won't, while it's not, and I don't think it ever will completely kill flat Earth to the point that everyone just goes, oh well, that's it, 24-hour sun in Antarctica, Earth's a globe. It will, like you say, it will take a lot of the general interest out of it, and I think that's where sort of long term, this is, I think, the sort of beginning of the end for flat Earth, because you will have some people who are just doing this for the attention, for the money, for whatever reason. But there's other reasons why they're promoting flat Earth other than because they genuinely think the Earth is flat, and they want people to they actually actively care about people believing the Earth is flat. But nobody just watches one of their videos and goes, oh, yeah, Earth flat. Okay, I'll go with that. No one ever does. You mention to anybody, if you speak to somebody who isn't familiar with the concept that people think the Earth is flat, and you say that there are people that think the Earth is flat, they look at you like you've got three heads. Like, before TFE, when I was sort of had mentioned, conversation would come up that I'm going to Antarctica, and people would say, why are you going to Antarctica? And I would joke and say, I'm going to prove the Earth's not flat. And they just look confused, like, what? Why? And then you kind of have to explain and go, because there's people that think the Earth is flat, and this is, our way of showing that this doesn't work on a flat Earth. So nobody just hears about the idea of a flat Earth and thinks Earth's flat. They start to delve into it and start to ask these questions. How does this work? How does that work? And then, sort of they kind of start going down that slippery slope, and then they fall down the rabbit hole. And I think that the amount of dust that TFE has kicked up into that kind of into that realm, nobody now is going to be approaching flat Earth with this fresh set of eyes of going, I'm hearing people saying that the Earth might be flat, and them not stumble upon TFE. And by that point, they won't be in the mindset of going, it must be fake because the Earth is flat. They'll be in a case of, oh, yeah, they've captured this 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Well, that doesn't work on any flat Earth, so I guess the Earth can't be flat. That will help a lot of people from not falling into the trap to begin with. And then I think as the audience numbers dwindle, as you've got people coming out of flat Earth going, it doesn't, 24-hour sun doesn't work. They've proven that, they've shown, they've covered the track, they've covered all these different bases, they've gone at it very stringently. They've convinced Jaren, and he went there, he saw it, and all these other people are now starting to step out of it as well. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. The numbers will dwindle, and when you then take away the audience from the people who are only doing it for the attention or for the money, suddenly their incentive to carry on pushing it goes sailing out the window. So, yeah, I do think maybe not instantly, but I do think long-term TFE is going to have a big impact, or is already having a big impact, but it's going to... I do think it really is spelling the beginning of the end for Flat Earth. Claire Celestin for $10. Thank you for the hours of great science education content, but that's not why I'm donating today. Today is for the snoozing and dreaming Rusty. Well, you are more than welcome for the science education, Claire, and Rusty will be more than happy with the donation once he wakes himself up. People are donating to you here, Rusty, and you're being very rude. Doesn't care. And yeah, the camera's not frozen, by the way. That happened last time. No, that is just pretty a typical day in the life of Rusty when I'm sat here working, and that's just, yeah, how he is. I really will one day. I am genuinely considering just doing a Rusty cam, and just I'll put a live stream up with just not even that. I'll just put that as a live stream and just leave it running. Chris Finnegan, £10. What did I just see? Sorry, comment just caught my eye there. William Cody, that's not rude, that's comfort. I quite agree, Will, to be fair. I'm just jealous that I can't lie like that in that chair. Chris Finnegan, £10. Just another token of support, as many of your videos have been invaluable as an aid to help a friend of mine out of the flat earth cult. Chemtrails is the next one I have to rescue him from. Thanks. Very much appreciated there, Chris. Chemtrails, yeah, that's another one that I may well start to delve into. But Chris, this is just sort of proving the point that I was talking about earlier, which I don't even know if you were hearing or not. But me doing these videos isn't just about directly reaching the flat earthers or the moon landing deniers and getting them to sort of realize why they're wrong, but it's also that people who know people who've fallen down that rabbit hole, the people down the rabbit hole might have no interest in going looking for these answers themselves. But if it's, if there's people who care about them, want to try and help them, they go looking for the answers for them to then turn around and go, well, okay, I saw this and I saw that, and how do you explain it? So, yeah, it's not just about directly reaching the people who believe it, but it's also about reaching the people who have been indirectly affected by it. Dr. Apocalypse for 2 super chats, £2 a piece. First one, do you drink lager or ale bitter, if at all? And then buy Rusty some treats. I will definitely get him some treats. I don't really drink, to be honest. Kind of, yeah. Occasionally, once in a blue moon, but I've not really been much of a big drinker. I haven't really drank much for quite a few years. Not teetotal or whatever. I just when I was younger, I go back when I were a lad. Yeah, when I was younger, I grew up in a village outside of a town. So most of the people I used to hang around with were in the town. I lived a few miles away. And I was the only person who lived around there. So whenever they were going out, more often than not, I would wind up driving down to hang around with them, which means even if they were having a drink, I couldn't. And then usually they'd then wind up giving me a few quid cash to drive them back home rather than pay for a taxi. So I wound up then making money off going out. And then the few times that I would go out, but more often than not, I would wind up not really drinking that much, just because it kind of got. I'd usually wind up more just sort of making sure that everyone else I was with was okay. And then had a few instances of getting very, very drunk and throwing up a lot. And I kind of just thought, I'm just basically paying a lot of money to feel like shit the next morning, and I don't really care much for it. So, yeah. So, occasionally I'll drink, but for the most part, nah, don't really bother, but appreciate it anyway, Doctor. JP Demore 5 for $10 US. Total lunar eclipse tonight for all to see. I was wondering what the Flurf explanation might be for the invariably circular shadow of the Earth, regardless of where the moon happens to be in the sky. I think the flat Earth explanation is, how do you know it's the Earth, even though they can't then explain what it is? Because it's back into, this is probably another good contradiction point that I may reach back for, because you've got the whole, what is the moon? Some say it's a light, some say it's fluid, some say it's solid. No one seems to be able to explain a damn thing of what it does or why. Funny, the heliocentric model's got it nailed down, though. Wow. J5 Australian dollars. Hey, Dave, love the channel. I have a super chat above about hurricanes and cyclones. I think it got missed. Many thanks. Oh, I do apologise, Jay. Let me just go back and... I'm not... Where's that? I do apologise, Jay. I'm not actually seeing that on the list. Unless my eyes have just fallen apart. Or did I like it and not... I was going to say I've hearted everyone, but I thought I'd heart them when I read them out. Oh, yeah. There we are. Sorry, I do apologise, Jay. I seem to have hearted the message and forgot to read it out. I'll just say it was Rusty distracting me or something. Yes, so for 10 Australian dollars, she said, I only found out about Flat Earth last year, TFE, etc. Do Flat Earthers have a reason for hurricanes in the north and cyclones in the south never meeting at the equator, i.e. they rotate in opposite directions? I'm not familiar with any explanation for it. And yeah, it's not only do they rotate in opposite directions, but yeah, they never cross the equator either, which, you know, rotating globe and Coriolis would dictate that they can't, because when you then reach the equator, the Coriolis effect would be trying to drive them in the opposite direction to what they're actually traveling, and flat Earth would be magic, I presume. That's usually the roundabout explanation if they can't explain it as magic. They don't say it's magic. They'll just say, we say gravity's magic because we don't fully understand the exact mechanics of it all yet, or whatever. But Wiley Coyote for $5 US. It's funny how Flat Earth can't even teach basic science lessons. Yeah. Well, I mean, they can try and teach them, but they get them all wrong. You only got to listen to Flat Earth Dave trying to talk to a room full of students, and it's quite funny how the room full of science students, high school science students, can see through his bullshit from a mile off. Turtle moves £2. Dave McKeegan to prove the 24-hour Rusty in England. I could try. Oh, are you waking up? There we go. It's about time you did something. There we go. I'll make you slightly bigger on the screen. There you go. No, now you're trying to come over onto... Now you're trying to come onto my screen again. Yeah. Don't fall off the chair. Where was I up to? Adam Lord for £50. Thank you very much, Adam. Just one last point to add to what I said previously. I think TFE created a massive amount of distrust within the community, especially when you had so many big names refusing to go, despite being offered free trips. Thanks for your time, mate. Yes, thank you once again, Adam. That's very generous of you, and I do think you're right. Which is kind of what links to what I was saying before about Amarel. He was a flat earther who was actually a Patreon backer of Eric Dubay. So he was watching all these Eric Dubay videos, and he's seen all these Eric Dubay videos where Dubay was turning around and saying, not only does the 24-hour, not only was he saying the 24-hour sun doesn't work in Antarctica, well, actually, he was saying there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica, but he's on record on more than one occasion turning around and saying that Antarctica basically holds a key to, there's a lot that they're hiding in Antarctica, that he wants to go and see it all for himself, and then gets offered a free trip to go, and then turns around and says no. And Amaral actually said when he heard about, or when he saw the TFE poll go up for people to be able to vote which flat earther, or gave the choice between Vice, Jaron, Austin, and Dubé, who do you want to see go? I think Amaral actually messaged Dubé through Patreon saying, isn't this amazing? You might actually get the opportunity to go to Antarctica. And Dubé turned around and said, I don't share your enthusiasm. It's not going to prove anything one way or the other. It's a waste of time. And I think that was quite a wake-up call for Amaral of why would Dubé sort of go from all this talk about wanting to go to Antarctica when he's thinking that you can't actually go there, to now being offered an opportunity to go and turning it down. Seems a bit sus. Almost like Dubé knew what the result was going to be before we actually went. Gary, I owe £10. I lived with a flat earther for 2 years. She was hilarious, but she was also into all other conspiracies. Chemtrails was big for her. Love Sarah. She was fun. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole host of conspiracies, and I basically think that if you are that far down the rabbit hole that you are convinced that the shape of the earth with which you are standing on is wrong, or is a lie, then everything else, it's pretty much a case of like, if you were going to think that the governments of the world and every scientist and space agency and everybody else are all lying about the shape of the earth, you're pretty much going to think that everything else is a lie as well. I think if you were to basically take all the conspiracies and stack them up into a pyramid, you really can't get to the top. I'd put flat earth at the top of that pyramid and say you can't get to the top of that pyramid without believing a bunch of other conspiracies along the way. Max, a guy 47 for 20 DKK. Really sad that the debate doesn't end at sunset. Well, I mean, the debate might have ended if the sun had set in Antarctica, but it didn't. Yeah, I will try and get through these super chats and then try and get onto this video from Effed Up World as well, because I was hoping to go through that. Mike Hatch, £2. Penalties, Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. Well, given last night's results, I'd rather not talk about the Champions League, in all honesty. I can't complain too much, to be fair. Start of the season, I hadn't exactly rated our chances, so we did better than I thought we would. It's just a bit of a shame to go out the way we did. JSS Tiger for $5. Don't let the sun set on flat Earth. Don't worry, the sun can't set on flat Earth. Right. I'm going to try. Let's get into this Effed Up World video. Hopefully before Toon goes live. Don't want to interfere too much with his stream. So yeah, the video that I've been talking about, is sunlight shining on the bottom of aeroplanes. Because where is somewhere I have it here. Here we go. Screen share, where are you? There we go. Bring up that full. So that's basically the concept of what I'm talking about here, is the fact that this is near sunset and you've got the underside of a plane lit up, bright sunlight. I did actually have... Is it this one? Managed to capture? No. I did have a video clip. There's another version of this, and you can see there's you kind of see it there. The shadows... That's a bloody enlarged version where it's a bit distorted, but there's shadows casting off these engine pylons up onto the wings. Right, so you've got shadow cast of these engines up onto wings. Now, the only way that you can get shadows casting upwards is if the light is below the subject. So that, for me, was a clear-cut observation that people can make, is that you can't get a light shining on the underside of a plane when it's just cruising along. The light has to be approaching from under the plane in order for it to light up the bottom of the plane and then reflect down to you on the ground. And the only way that that can happen is if the light source is physically below the horizontal of the plane. Not specifically at a lower altitude, just if you were to draw a horizontal line through the plane, the sunlight has to be below that horizontal for it to be shining upwards. And that works on a globe because as the sun is setting, you then essentially have... I don't even explain it properly. These are not to scale, by the way. So as you have the sun setting, let's put it there, right? If you've got your observer is sort of here, and you've got the sun here, the sun is approaching from below the plane, well, below the plane's horizontal, even though it could be millions of miles away. It works on a globe. It doesn't work on a flat Earth because the light would always be physically above the plane, so it should only ever be shining on the top of the plane, never from below. So that was the argument that I put forward. Now, Joe Hanvey had tried to explain it by suggesting that you can shine a light from above a plane and it lights up the bottom. Yet, strangely, he used a laser. And I could only, when I did it with this, and I shone a laser at it, it made the bottom glow, but only because this is a plastic plane, and the laser was basically punching straight through the plastic and making the inside of the plane glow, which isn't really how sunlight works on a plane. Like, usually, if you're going on a plane, it's, make sure your tray tables are in the upright and locked position. Never is it a case of make sure you've applied sunblock because sunlight's about to come punching through the hull. So, yeah, that was my point, is that you can't get reflections of sunlight on the undersides of planes. On a flat Earth, it doesn't work. I did even... Oh, in fact, here's some clips I found for it. These are just... So I don't think that one's quite... the sun's quite low enough there because the underside's still lit. I think that's only catching the back of the wing. But you see, there's a good one. You'll see here, literally like a bright glisten of the sun on the front of the wing. It's like that's a clear reflection, like looking into a mirror and seeing a reflection of the sun. It's like if you're walking down a street and sometimes you catch the sun like reflecting in a window. It's like you literally see a clear reflection of the sun blinding you in the face. That's basically that. It is the sun is just catching on the front of the wing here and reflecting down. It's like, well, for you to be below the plane and the sunlight to be glistening here, the sunlight has to be coming from this way. This is high school level physics. Angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. So that was the point that I was driving forward. Now, most flat earthers seem to avoid this observation. I've put it down as the easiest observation to explain that the earth can't be flat and it has to be a globe, because this doesn't work on a flat earth. It only works on a globe. And lots of people can see planes at sunset. I know people will say clouds, it's the same principle as clouds, the undersides of clouds being lit up. But flat earthers have turned around and said that what you see as the underside of clouds being lit up is in fact sunlight shining through the clouds. So I favor the plane argument as a more as a harder one to refute, because you then lose the ability of saying it's the sun shining through the plane. It takes that argument away. So yeah, that was the basic argument that I put forward. And then F'd Up World, I saw, tagged me in a video that they did in response to it. So I thought I'll just cover his response. It's only a relatively short one, relatively short video, but I think it's him just not quite getting how perspective actually works. And I think if he can see this and grasp it, he might be inclined to change his mind. So I'm just going to bring this up here. Here we go.
Okay, here's Dave McKeegan.
You see, almost a year ago, I published this video laying out what I think is one of the easiest and most conclusive observations that most people can make to show that clearly that we cannot live on a flat Earth, which is that just before sunrise or just after sunset, if you happen to see a plane flying directly between you and the direction of the sun, you can often see the sun clearly reflecting off the underside of the plane.
This is true, but I don't think it has anything to do with the Earth being flat or a globe.
And the only way that you can have direct light on the underside of an object is if the light source is lower than the horizontal of that object. I.e., if you walk into a...
Is the light source at sunset lower than the plane? It's on the horizon. The plane's above you. So of course it's lower than the plane. But
dark.
So this is where F'd Up World's falling into the trap of not grasping perspective. And you'll see this going forward in a minute. He's putting forward the argument that because you see the sun at the horizon and the plane is above you, then therefore the sun is lower than the plane. Which is kind of the point on a globe. The point is more the fact that if the Earth is flat, even at any given distance, the sun would actually still be above the plane, so the light would still be coming from above the plane, not below it. But we'll get to that in a sec.
And you turn on the ceiling light, the top of a table will be in direct light, but the underside of the table will be shaded. There will be an ambient light reflecting onto the underside from like the floor and the rest of the room, but no direct light. To get direct light onto the underside of the table, you need the light source to be moved below the horizontal of the table. So direct sunlight on the underside of an aeroplane.
so that's true what he just said. You can't shine a light onto, if it's above something, you can't shine the light onto something underneath it. That's very true.
The underside of an aeroplane requires either the plane to be physically at a higher altitude than the sun, or the Earth to be a globe.
So just those two, that's it, Dave?
Requires either the plane to be physically...
There, that's how it is at sunset.
So this is his issue, is that he's saying that he's imagining that if I'm gonna try, hopefully I'm gonna try and employ my overhead cam to draw this out and hope that it doesn't mess the stream up, which I don't know if it did last week or not, but overhead 1, here we go. So he's arguing that you have your observer, great picture, I know, and then you have your plane, even better plane, and so your observer is looking up to the bottom of the plane. Can I get that to focus better? I guess that looks cack. There we go. All right. So for you to see a reflection of the sun off the bottom of the plane, the sun has to be coming from below the plane. Now, he's saying that because it's sunset, you're seeing the sun here, then that must mean that the sun is below the plane. But on a flat Earth, the sun should be, well, above the plane. At any distance, the sun should always be above the plane. What you're looking at when you're seeing, when you look at, like, the heights of a plane, if you look at a plane, you'll say, oh yeah, the plane appears to be going closer to the horizon as it's getting further away. If the plane's at 35,000 feet, let's just say for argument's sake the plane is always at 35,000 feet, what you're actually seeing is that 35,000 feet, the angular size of that 35,000 foot gap is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The sun would still be physically higher than the plane. If you're going to say, okay, the plane's at 35,000 feet, the sun's at 3,000 miles. Yes, the angular size of that 3,000 mile gap would be getting smaller as you moved further away, but the sun would physically still, the light would still be traveling from above the plane, not below it. Let's take this and change your orientation, effed up, because you're imagining as the sun is moving further away from you, it's getting lower and lower and lower in your vision until it reaches the horizon. But let's change your orientation 90 degrees and say you're looking at train tracks, right? If you say rather than the horizon being the center line, let's put the vertical center line in your vision. So you're standing in the middle of railway tracks, right? You watch the railway tracks disappear off into the distance. They will get closer and closer to the middle of your vision. They'll never cross your vision. They'll never physically cross over. And then you've got the other problem, which is, so the sun would always be above the plane. Physically above the plane, the light would always be physically traveling from above the plane, not actually below it. And this is where you need to remember, angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. When you look in a mirror, you see a very clear reflection from one direction. As in physically a direction, not the band. So if I hold my phone there, right, you'll see that I have to hold my phone in a very particular position to get the reflection of me coming off it, right? So whatever angle the light is approaching the reflective surface from is the exact angle it will leave that surface from. So for you to see, where's my overhead gone? So for you to be seeing, if you're looking up at, say, a 10-degree angle to see the bottom of the plane, then the light coming from the plane has to be coming up from a 10-degree angle, not further off in the distance. If the sun's way off over here, and the light's coming from above, it can't reach the bottom to even reflect. It would have to bend around in the first place in order for it to then reflect back down to you. If you're gonna... That's the wrong camera. That's the right camera. If you're gonna try and say that it's just the sun way off in the distance, given the fact that angle of incidence and angle of reflection, the plane would have to be halfway between you and the sun, which means the plane would then have to be several thousand miles away, and you wouldn't be able to see it. But he goes on and he actually pulls up. Oh, here we go. This is what the sun does when it sets and rises. Or is that... So he's put this diagram together as this is what is happening on a flat Earth. He's physically put the sun touching the ground. Which is where flat earthers in perspective sort of struggle. And I would say if you're going to... I don't know, there's potentially a way to help. All right, if you're going to say... Let me zoom this back out. All right. If you imagine you've got your observer on the ground here, right, and you've got your plane. Me, that's an even better plane than before. If you were to put the sun here at the top of the page, right? If you put another piece of paper here. Let me get that further out so you can see. Here we go. Put another piece of paper there. Move the sun to here. Put another piece of paper. Move the sun. Move the sun. You could make this page, this sheet of paper, you could make it thousands of miles long. The sun would always be above, at the top of the paper. It would never, ever be at the bottom of the paper. It would always be above it. The only way you can get the ball here like that is because you've dragged it from the top of the page down to the bottom, which is kind of the point. You're having to physically drop the sun below the plane in order for it to light up the bottom. And like he even acknowledged that the light has to be approaching from the underside of the plane, not from above. And so, yeah, it's funny how they seem to think that because you're seeing it go closer to the horizon, then that must, anything go closer to the horizon, then everything just drops to the horizon. It's like it doesn't. Everything should get smaller, but it's like the Canigou Mountains, right? Flat earthers love to bring up the Canigou Mountains. You see the sunset at Canigou Mountains. But if you actually take a picture of the full Canigou Mountain and you overlay it you match up the peaks to that sunset, 3/4 of the Canigou Mountains are below the horizon. Now, if the Earth was actually flat, the bottom of the Canigou Mountain should be at the horizon, and everything should just be getting smaller as you get further away. The fact that it is going below the horizon is kind of the clue that the Earth isn't flat. Joe Black, are we moving to MC Tunes? Is 2 now going live? Is he? Oh, we should probably finish up then. Don't want to be treading on his toes. Oh, it's alright. He's playing his intro. This will go on for 45 minutes anyway. Right, I will finish up his super chat. My super chat. And then yeah, I don't know. I might see if Toon wants me to hop onto his, join up with him for a bit. Rachel Clark, $5. Your contribution to the flat Earth discussion is unparalleled. I hope you don't stop for a very long time. Well, I'm not intending on stopping, all being well. T-Bone Beats, $5. Why is flat Earth so important to them? What's in it for them? Let's say they're right. Then what? What's the prize? What's to be gained? To some, I guess it's I don't know. They just maybe some they just feel like it just makes it. I don't know. Potentially, it just makes them feel special that they think they know something that other people don't know. But it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, to some, I think it likes. I think to some as well, there's the community side of it that they feel like maybe. Sorry, I'm just getting. I'll put Toonstream up on the side. I keep getting distracted by it. Yeah, I think to some as well, if they've got an audience, if they've got a following as well, it kind of makes them feel more special. That if they then just stop doing what they're doing, they lose that audience. Kind of they lose a part of their identity. And yet the sad thing is that there's life beyond that. You only have to look at, I think Ranty said he had Ranty, STST, Rachy 5 Zeros. All of them kind of said that they had that same thing. They had that community. They had that kind of, we're this little community of people that know better than everybody else. But it was only once they left that they kind of saw that actually life is better outside of the flat Earth cult than in it. But you kind of don't know until you've left. And Jaren said the same thing. Jaren now kind of realizes that flat Earth is like a cult, but he couldn't see it when he was in it. It's only when he's come out of it that he saw he was actually in a cult. And not only was he in a cult, he's now realized that he was actually a big contributor to bringing people into that cult, which is one of the reasons that he seems to have, I think he's being very sort of vocal in streams and not just going, oh yeah, I was wrong and the Earth's not flat and that's it. He's actually going more, pushing it to try and help the people he's drove into flat Earth bring them back out of it. So where are we? The Mojek, £5. A friend of mine used to go on about the moon landings being fake and the Earth being flat. Showed them TFE, and they said they knew from the moon. They knew from the moon pics. You mean they knew the Earth wasn't flat because of the pitch? Oh, do you mean the Earth wasn't flat because the photos of the globe from the moon is one I'm going to tackle as well, because there's there's a lot of elements to the moon. And for me, there's a lot of elements that the moon landing deniers cannot explain. Mainly the photographs. It kind of helps me being a photographer understanding lighting, but the lighting and the shadows within the photos on the moon, you cannot replicate on Earth. They can't do it. They tried doing it. I had a look. The First Man movie, the Ryan Gosling one that they did a couple of years ago about Neil Armstrong. I actually saw behind the scenes the director of photography for that film said that they wanted to make the lunar landing scene as look as realistic as possible with the least amount of CGI as possible. So they hired a quarry. They didn't do it in a studio. They took a quarry at night to make something look like the lunar landscape. They then had a company who produced, I think they produced a 100,000 watt light bulb. And they concluded that 100,000 watt wasn't bright enough. They needed twice that. But putting two of those lights together would make two lots of shadows and wouldn't look completely realistic. So they went to the company and got them to build a custom bulb at 200,000 watt for them to hang on a crane some 500 feet away, like way up on the top of a crane. And even then, it still couldn't perfectly replicate the shadows and the lighting that we see in the lunar photos from 1969. So yeah, kind of when you go into that aspect and you go, there is no way that you can create those photos on Earth, then they can't have been taken on Earth. And it's kind of telling that I've had that as a standing challenge now for well over a year of, can any conspiracy theorist, any moon landing denier, show me a lighting setup that I can use to create that exact lighting look here on Earth? Nothing. So yeah, I'm hoping that whenever I can get the chance to sit down with Jaren, that's one of the topics that I can talk to him about, because I do think he'll take that on board. He certainly took on board what I explained to him in Antarctica about the EQ mount not working, because he actually referenced it in a stream the other day I saw. I explained to him about, given the scenario of, if I set up an EQ mount, if I go to the equator on the equinox, I set up an EQ mount, it will literally track the sun. Like, the camera will literally track the sun in a straight line, east to west, right the way overhead, and then point down at the ground at midnight, and then back around for sunrise. It's like, not in a loop, literally straight up and over, right the way around, and down at the ground. And you can tell he took it on board, because in his stream the other day, he was bringing up this flat Earth map thing of showing where the sun would be going, but where it would appearing to be going. And he put the observer on the equator at the equinox, and he actually showed it, and he was like, this is what Dave was talking about at Union Glacier. So I think if he's prepared to take all that on board, I think I could hopefully sort of make him realize that the moon landings actually happened as well. Rachel Clark for $2 Which is Homer Simpson backing into the hedge. That's pretty much it, I think, to be fair. That is very much what it feels like, that he is just going, yeah, I wasn't here. Because it's crazy how he was streaming so much before Antarctica. Even kind of like in Chile. Well, he didn't stream in Chile, but he was always in the streams with Jaren and stuff. But post TFE, barely anything. I don't even know if he's still doing Discord. He spent most of his time that I saw him most of the time that I saw him in Union Glacier, he was on the phone on Discord servers, sort of debating and discussing it with flat earthers. I don't know if he's still if he's even still doing that, or whether he's just dropped it entirely, because nobody seems to have heard anything from him. Kevin McCoy, $5. Dave, have you seen 3 Brown 1 Blues recent videos on the cosmic distance ladder? It's really incredible. No, I have not. Not even the channel doesn't even ring a bell, to be honest. So I'll go and look into that if I get a chance. Wally. Where's Wally? So a 24-hour fake sun is not possible. Have you told Flat? Wally, I'm pretty sure we've all told Banjo that a 24-hour sun, faking a 24-hour sun's not possible. He's not gonna listen. Yeah, I think he was the first to jump into the desperation pit, given the fact that he went after my EQ mount stopped tracking after 24 hours, therefore fake, which doesn't really add up, but hey ho. Right. Anyway, I've overran what I was aiming for. Yeah, I don't want to be conflicting with Toon Stream and taking people away from him, and my eyes are drying. What's that, Debunking? Have you tried to get Austin to come on a live stream to discuss TFE with you? No, William, I have not. I've not spoken to Austin at all post TFE. I don't think I have I. No, I don't think I have actually spoke to him. I think we bumped into him in Chile, in Santiago Airport. So when we got back, we were obviously together in Chile for a couple of days. We went to Santiago Airport, but we wound up flying in two different groups. So I think it was myself, Toon, Will, and Jonathan went to the airport, and then about an hour later, because Jaren, Austin, and Lisbeth were on the next flight out. Mark Herman had already gone by that point, and Critical Think was staying in Santiago staying in Punta Arenas for another couple of days. So it's an energetic leap. Yeah, so we wound up leaving about an hour apart because ALE were picking us up to take us to the airport. So they took one group of us. And then it was in... So yeah, we landed in Santiago a bit before them. So we were queuing up in passport control, saw them, spoke to them briefly, and then once we got through passport control, never saw him again. And I don't think I've spoken to Austin since pretty much that point. He was supposed to be on the stream Will organised to have everyone back together for a catch-up stream. And Will and Lisbeth didn't turn up for it. Lisbeth, I believe she got caught in work because Will had put this out to us a couple of weeks beforehand. He basically said, look, I think it'd be great if we do this collective sort of everyone come back together for one big stream, but we're trying to work out time zone logistics given the fact that, you know, Jaren's on one coast of America, Austin's on another, Toon and Will are somewhere in the middle, I'm in the UK, Critical Think's in Australia, Mark Herman is all over the world. So trying to organise everyone at the same time was a bit difficult. And so Will put it out to collectively to everybody and just said, this is the day that I'm thinking of doing it, and this is the time. And I think it was like 10 p.m. UK time, and I said, okay, 10 p.m. will work for me, which would have made it about 5 p.m. where Lisbeth was. So Lisbeth had actually, Will had put it out as a group email to everyone, and pretty much everyone had emailed back, reply to all, saying, I'll be there. Mark Herman, I didn't see reply, and Austin never replied. Lisbeth did reply saying that she was going to, she was really up for it, thought it was a great idea. But that would have put it about 5 p.m. her time. And I think she said she got caught up in work, so she couldn't make it. But Austin, no one heard from him. So he never responded to Will to say that he could or couldn't make it. Excuse me. And I think Will asked Jaren about it and said, have you spoke to Austin? And he said, I've spoke to him a bit, but he's sort of been very vague and not really said anything about whether he can or can't make it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think... But even then, he just... So, I don't think he wants to talk about it, to be honest, because he was on the Kingdom in Context. I think they did that big roundtable thing. He didn't really say much. If you actually look... Oh, God, my throat is gone. If you look at streams pre-Antarctica, when it's group streams, Austin was very vocal. Austin was constantly wanting to get involved in the conversations and drive the topic where he wanted it to go. And since when he has been on streams where it's been sort of talking about TFE and there's been a few people on, he does not seem to want to be saying much about anything. even the globebusters. So when Jaren turned around and said, you know, Earth's not flat now, he kind of had to step down from globebusters because he couldn't really say the Earth's a globe and run a channel called Globebusters. So he said he was stepping down from Globebusters and leaving Austin was meant to be taken over. And as I understand it, Austin's not been on the streams in 4 weeks. But even when he was, I think the one stream that I saw, granted I didn't watch all of it, but I skimmed through portions of it, and he didn't really seem to be particularly talking about anything. He didn't really seem to want to be engaging in the conversation. He just seems to be very much more happy to just sort of sit there and let everyone else do the talking. So yeah, he's shifted a lot, I think, since. So it does feel a lot like he knows the Earth can't be flat, but he doesn't want to come out and say that, because if he does, he's seen the backlash that he's going to receive. He's already had a hint of it anyway, because people were backlashing at him for just acknowledging that he'd seen the 24-hour sun. So he can only imagine the backlash he's going to get if he then turns around and says, oh yeah, well, guess I was wrong and the Earth must be a globe. So yeah, I just don't think he can bring himself to say it. But I don't think he wants to lose the community, but I also don't think he can work out how to explain it. And it's kind of one of those, I think it's no different than when you see like a politician or a celebrity get sort of caught up in some really sort of bad situation or whatever, and immediately you want to know, like, come on, like, when are you going to come out publicly and address this conversation, because we want to hear your explanation for it. I think he knows he can't go onto any stream without it becoming a topic, and he doesn't want to be talking about it. So right. Anyway, everyone, yeah, my throat is somewhat destroyed now, and even Rusty's got bored. So I am going to be wrapping it up then. I may well try and get another stream done at some point. I just don't know when, to be quite honest. Might try and get one in at the weekend. Maybe Saturday, depending on how things go. But yeah, I'll have to see. In the meantime, because, I mean, geez, there's still 700 odd people watching. Amazing. Yeah, thank you everybody for swinging by. I'm going to step off now because MC Toon is live and I don't want to tread on his toes. I've just popped the link in the chat to his stream if you want to head on over and see. He's he seems to be doing a lot of, I think he's doing a lot of flat earth or more maths that doesn't work on a flat earth. So yeah, I'm going to head off and rest my throat. Thank you everyone who's stopped by. You're all amazing. Rusty is... Can you come and say goodbye to people, please? Yes, you. Come on. Thank you. Are you coming up? All right. I'll give you a hand. You're not as nimble as you used to be. We're going now, aren't we? So are you going to say goodnight to everybody? There we go. Right. Now, everyone's favourite part, I will leave you with the Rusty outro, and I will catch you in the next stream.
Rusty sits atop his big red chair, casting out looks without a care. With his sidekick Dave close at hand, teaching us about the globe. West rejected. So many of them to be corrected. Rusty sleeps in his big red chair. Those floppy ears still hear, I swear. He dreams of conspiracies to come. Dave leaves him be, he knows the score. It's action that this hound lives for, and his foes must all eventually succumb. Rusty has a nose for facts, a science-based directive. Battling conspiracy theories like a true canine detective. He can't be denied. So many have tried, so many have failed and ended up dejected. Just like the fish John West rejected. Too many of them to be corrected. Yeah, too many of them to be corrected.